Hey, what's up, guys? Blaine Duncan here from Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. Welcome to episode number 57. We're your home, your weekly source for Michael Myers and Halloween talk. And that guy is my brother Austin, the co-host of this show. And dude, I'm excited for this episode. We got a good one planned.
I gotta get my light fixed. I look like the whitest. I look like Michael Myers right now. So just ignore that for the time being. We'll get that fixed at some point. I am so happy to be back, brother. It is really good. Thank you guys for bearing with us. We were just talking about how last week we were both like battling cold, coming back from it. And we sounded a little stuffed up the whole time. But we're back at pretty much 100% health here for episode 57. And I think this is kind of like, these are the episodes that to me are like what make the show, ranking the movies, ranking our favorite characters. This is something that we're going to keep on doing yearly. Tell the folks what we're doing today, Blaine, and I'm going to turn Tanner.
Well, let's address the white, the opaque color that your skin is, which mine is also. We live in the great white north of Minnesota, and the sun shines here for about 45 minutes a day if we're lucky. So we don't get sun a whole lot around here, right? It's a pretty cloudy, gloomy, cold. Nobody goes outside. So you just have to put up with us, and then we'll be sunning our buns and just be tan as hell come July. We'll be the tannest guys. We'll be the tannest Halloween podcast hosts around. Guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
no, we have 3 months of decent weather in this state, and it goes from absolute treacherous cold to just volcano hot.
Right.
In a matter of days. So
it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because I was going through our videos the other day, and I was looking at like, if you look on YouTube, you look at all of our, like, we used to put our picture on like the what would you call that? Like, yeah, the thumbnail. And you can actually watch us go from white to more tan to really tan, then back to a little tan, and then we're white again. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I was looking at that same thing myself. But nevertheless, we're here. It's episode 57. We got a good one planned for you guys. We're going to be kind of, well, I'll say re-ranking the Halloween Michael Myers masks. Now, you guys might be going, wait, didn't you guys already do this once? Yes, we did. Much like we already ranked and re-ranked the movies, we're going to re-rank again the masks from every single movie, all the way from H1 to Halloween Ends. But this time we've got a little bit of visual stimulation for those of you who are watching this. And Austin created this awesome, what the hell is this thing called again? It's a
we are
Venn diagram.
Yeah, this is a Venn diagram. We are cashing in on that YouTube algorithm. Everybody likes tier lists. And you know what? It's been a while since we did a tier list. I forget what the last tier list we did was. But we are back at it again, and we're going to rank every, true Michael Myers mask. I didn't include like the clown mask, the Rob Zombie paper mache mask. These are the shape masks. These are the white masks. We got some with a couple different variations within the film. But also I'd like to say some of these masks, super hard to get a clear shot of from the films. And so if any of these replicas are yours, sue my brother up here. His name is Blaine Duncan. And, if you need his address or details, just let me know. Also, if I used your mask as like a perfect representation of what that mask looks in the film, just be happy you have
kudos
and grail of a mask. Like,
yeah,
I will never own anything that looks exactly like any of these. So congratulations. And yeah, Sue Blaine. But yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit of a tier list today.
Walk us real quick, because I had to have you explain this to me, and then I didn't put two and two together, because it goes back to this thing that I'm not smart. Go through what SABCDF is.
So after S, we've got ABCDF, which are the standard grades on your report card. These are how we're going to grade them. But there is this S tier, this S category, which stands for superior, which is just like, if you got Oreos, the S is going to be the double stuff classic. And then you'll have A is like your regular, and somewhere down by F is going to be those goddamn thin, stupid ones. For the healthy Oreo eater. Huge demographic there. Sorry, went off on a tangent. But
he's passionate about two things: Halloween and Oreos.
God damn it, that is right. So yeah, that S tier is just kind of like untouchable, unbeatable. Like you can't even rank it because it stands on its own as just a fantastic mask. I think we've got some contenders on here. I know one absolutely will be. And, I think we just work our way from 78 all the way to, what is it? 2022 is when ends.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. How about, why don't, since you do the honors, you go first. I feel like I always go first for this kind of thing. So, why don't you start us off with where Mr. 1978 lands us?
Yeah, so we got Mr. 1978 here. This is, to me, when I think of Michael Myers in my head, this is the image that occurs. And again, this is a replica one. Whoever owns this, god damn, that is a perfect Myers mask. Dude, this is the mask that started it all. I mean, everybody knows the crazy story of taking a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask. I mean, it's a symbol of the movie as a whole, of just like they painted the leaves. It was so self-made. Nothing was made for this. They had to work with what they had. And, the fact that the most recognizable Halloween mask in the world was a DIY project. I mean, I think like horror fans across the world are always tweaking, and, collectors are always trying to make sure they have the perfect paint job, perfect hair on these things. And it's crazy that something that really didn't have that much go into the look ended up being one of the hardest to achieve looks. And like I said, the most iconic face of horror. To me, obviously with all these, you and I are going to have a discussion. But to me, this is the one that going into today, I knew had to go right up here at the old S category.
I think the thing that I love about this mask is it truly, the look changes from scene to scene. The lighting changes the look of the mask. And that's what I find so fascinating about this mask, is that the mask itself almost has a personality, and it changes. It looks completely different from the scene where Michael picks up the phone to the scene where like he is standing at the top of the stairs with Lori and Tommy and Lindsay freaking out and running, into the bedroom, or where she gets them put away. Like that, that to me is like the scariest thing about that mask, is that it truly, the mask itself changes shape. Now I understand that my understanding is they had 3 hero masks for 78. I believe that's accurate. If it's not, somebody let us know. But I think there's pictures out there of like John Carpenter and Nick Castle and somebody else, Tommy Lee Wallace. Maybe they're playing guitars or something, and all 3 of them are wearing the mask. That I love that the mask changes like that. But I also love the fact, and we're going to get into the H2 version of this mask, which is the same as the hero, that the mask itself became sort of grimy, and it lost its like sharp, like white texture. And here's the thing. I would love to know, obviously when they shoot a film, they don't film it in, chronological order. It's not done as in like they didn't, the very last thing that they filmed was the 1973 basically flashbacks, or I'm sorry, 1963 flashback scene, because they had to go in and they shot all the other shit, and then they had to go in and like fix the Myers house up basically and make it look like it was, still lived in and whatever. So we know it's not shot in order. But what I would love to know, and I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I would love to know like some sort of a shooting schedule. Like what were the first scenes that they shot with Michael? And I almost feel like if you really paid attention to the film, you might be able to see it, because the mask definitely at times looks much more grungy, much more, you know, it's had a lot of hands on it. And clearly, I don't think, you know, in today's world, like, you have to assume that when the latest trilogy was filmed, when James Jude Courtney took that mask off, he probably handed it over to somebody who their only job, and maybe it was Christopher Nelson, but he probably handed it off to somebody. Their only job was to take that freaking mask and set it onto some sort of a mask stand and get it covered and get it, you know, like, dude, you know, back in 1978, Nick Castle was like, dude, it's lunchtime, I'm throwing this shit. Like, you know, he was like, it was getting tossed on tables, it was getting tossed in the grass, it was getting, because nobody thought about stuff like that back then. And nobody probably had, well, they didn't know, they had no idea that this thing was going to turn into this phenomena that it's become. And that this face, it became so iconic that it is like one of the top 5 probably most recognized images in horror, and it will be for all time, right? For all, you know, just and all the way back to 1978. So that to me is what I think is cool, is that this mask, it looks different from scene to scene, and it also in a way changes look just based on the grunginess. And that's why 1000% this mother effer ends up in that superior category for me, because it is the holy grail. It is the one thing that really will, you know, it'll stand the test of time, that this will probably always be the Michael Myers mask.
100%. It's the most iconic. Like I said, it's when you think of Michael Myers in your head, I would imagine 90% of the people watching this video probably imagine one of the scenes or one of the looks he has in 1978. But yeah, it would be super interesting to see that schedule and really, you know where we're at based on the mask. I'm sure somebody's probably sat down and figured that out. But it is funny to think, like, this mask, by the end of it, they had to know this doesn't look like the plain white mask that we had. I don't know if people were like, oh shit, like this isn't what we wanted, but it definitely created, you know, I love the H1 with a little bit of grunge, a little bit of the flesh tone coming through the neck. I think that's what gives it all of its character. And then we move into 1981, where they. So
hold on, just a second. Let me ask you a question, because this is I don't know enough about this stuff. I'm not young and in the know like you are. So we don't each have our own selection. We have to agree on where this thing lands. Is that the idea?
Right. And I think I threw that last one up at S just because I knew that you were probably going to put it there as well. Okay. But I think we'll kind of leave it. We'll each talk about each mask and then maybe have a discussion. Like already from here on, I think we're going to have discussions on where the Duncan tier list really ends up. Right. But obviously we've got the continuation of the 1978 mask, that same Kirk. That, you know, there's a couple different stories on why it's turned a little bit yellower in color, why the hair got so matted. But, you know, for a long time, people were saying it was under Deborah Hill's bed. She was a heavy smoker. And so it kind of naturally yellowed from that. There are people who say that story is complete bullshit too. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like the idea of Halloween, who really came up with it. You know, it's a chicken and the egg thing. But regardless, we got this look in Halloween 2 in 1981, and it is I think just a great continuation. I mean, obviously it is the same mask, but I love that in this kind of darker, grittier film, the mask itself reflects that. I think the whole way Michael looks in this movie is a lot sleeker. He's got, you know, to me, his overall or his coveralls kind of tie into it with how tight they are around the neck. The hair being kind of slicked back, even though it's matted. And it just adds to this kind of, you know, and no pun intended, because it's a hospital movie, but a surgical killer. I think it's just a meaner version. To me, it's not quite as iconic. It's not quite as good, in my opinion, as the 1978 mask. But man, I love watching this in the you know, watching it every October on screen. And personally, I think if I had to choose a Grail mask to own, I think this is a harder look to achieve, or at least like there's more character, more story to it. I think one day I would love to own like a perfect rendition of the 1981 Halloween 2 mask. I think that would be very much up there for me. And obviously Dick Warlock did a great job in this mask, but you can see how his face shape very different than Nick Castle, and kind of produces an entirely different mask, even though it is the same prop.
I still remember, you were always much bigger into the masks than I ever was, as far as like the details of the masks. Like I always knew that, the part 5 mask was the part 5 mask and 6 was 6. I mean, I knew all that stuff, but I didn't know the ins and outs, the details of where the masks were made and, the artists and, all of that stuff. You were literally, since probably you were 10 years old, you knew this shit, right?
Yeah.
And because you were just very fascinated with that. And I think you still are. Dude, I still remember when you told me that the H2 mask was from the 78 film. I was like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It's a totally different mask. It looks different. I mean, it's like a rounder. And you're like, no, bro, it was the same mask. And I remember you talking about like the story about, at that time with the whole Deborah Hill thing, and it was under her bed and this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, no way. And then, I saw like a comparison photo and I was like, holy shit, that's the same mask. So here's what I'll say. Number one, cool as hell that they still had that mask 3 years later, or 2 years, I guess, when they were probably filming the movie. But 3 years later, that mask was still around, that they still had it, or several versions of it, or whatever it was. I don't know if it was just one mask or multiple versions. I think there was at least two, because one obviously burned. I think that is freaking sweet, because you would never see that in today's films, right? You would never, ever, even if Michael's mask didn't change between 2018 and Kills, they would have not resculpted, but they would have created new masks for that film. They would have never been like, well, we have these 4 or 5 that are still good, let's just roll these over. They would have just created new masks, most likely, right? I think that's super cool. What I will say, and all the love in the world to Dick Warlock, because I really truly do like him as Michael Myers. He is probably a top. He's probably my 3rd favorite Michael Myers. Okay, well, he's probably 3 or 4. Like he's really high up there, and that, that's no knock on him. But when the grand scheme of things, and you've had a shit ton of people who have played Michael Myers, that's still really high, right? What I will say is, it truly is a tragedy that Nick Castle was not Michael Myers in Halloween 2. And not only is that a tragedy, and again, this is taking nothing away from what Dick Warlock did, because I love it. I still would have wanted Dick Warlock to be Michael in a film, but just that, because it was supposed to happen on the same night, it was different enough. His walk was different enough. His shape of his body was different enough. His look was different enough. The coveralls were different. But mostly the mask was different enough that if a blind person could spot that this was not the same dude, this is not the same mask, this was not. So that to me is a tragedy of this franchise. However, I do love the look of this mask. I think it's really cool. I would have loved to have seen a sequel. I would have loved to have seen this mask maybe have been taken a little bit better care of, and to have seen a more clean version of it, like we saw in 78 in, Halloween 2. Like I would have, or if they would have taken the mask and been like, okay, we're going to touch it up a little bit. We're going to give it the old spray down and spray paint and add some more, whatever. Right. I would have liked to have seen them do that just for consistency's sake and continuity's sake. But, I do love this mask. I think it's clearly the mask. It just looks different. So where is this thing landing on your list?
So personally, I think this is A tier. Maybe I could be convinced of B tier. But it is, I mean, we're still talking a Kirk here. We're still talking the original look, the ideal look of Michael Myers is that Kirk. It's stretched out. It's got its own style to it. I agree. As far as continuity goes, it's completely different. Like, it doesn't look, I mean, it's clearly aged even further than the most aged you see it in 1978. It wasn't, well taken care of by any means,
right.
But I do like the character. I do like the style that it brings in H2. I think it matches the vibe. Like I said earlier, I have trouble putting it anywhere below A, but like I said, there are some contenders still down the line that I don't want to miss out on. But where do you think I'm rooting for A here?
I am with this mask. If we're going to get really into the details, I'm a solid A-, B+. That's where I land with this mask. So I'm totally fine with it ending up in the A category, because I think the thing is that makes it the A- for me, or that pushes it beyond that B+ level, is the fact that, dude, this is the mask, right? It's the mask. It just wasn't taken care of that great back then. And Dick Warlock just looked different than Nick Castle. And that's the fact of the matter. So that's where, when I say it's a tragedy that Nick was not available to play Michael Myers. I think about, and I know that we talked about this when we re-ranked the Halloween films, and Halloween 2 fell for you and it came up for me. But I think about, like, what if Nick Castle had played Michael Myers in H2? That would have been pretty freaking sweet, dude. That would have been
it really is
cool.
A tragedy.
Yeah. And not taking anything away from Nick Castle or Dick Warlock. I love Dick Warlock. He is the nicest, sweetest, like grandfather, old man, like super sweet dude. Love what he did. I'm just saying it would have been cool if maybe H3 wasn't H3 and we got Dick Warlock in H3 and we got Nick Castle in H2. Like, that would have been cool, right? So whatever. It is what it is. We love Dick Warlock. We love Nick Castle, and they're the goats. So yeah, dude, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it landing at A.
Well, I'm about to eat crow here, because a lot of what I said about why this mask deserves to be at this A tier, saying, oh, it's a Kirk and it's still kind of the original idea. Well, we do have this guy who this is a Kirk. This is a Kirk as well. It's like a recasted, bastardized Kirk, but it is a Kirk.
Can we talk about that for a second? Can we just talk?
Yeah.
And tell me what because I don't know that I truly understand. I mean, I get that it's a Kirk kind of, but I don't get that it's a Kirk. So walk me through how is this thing a Kirk? Because the cheekbones and everything, just like the mouth looks the same to me.
Yep.
But how the hell is this thing a Kirk?
So, I'm not sure if there's actually an official story on this or if this is just kind of speculation. But from what I know about, like, latex mask making, and I'm sure somebody is sounding off in the live comments or in the comments below. But from what I understand, and it could be wrong, is perhaps they took a Kirk that existed, a real Kirk. When was Halloween 4 made? 1984? 88. That's right.
Or it came out in 88, at least. I believe it was still filmed in the spring of 88, but yeah.
So in 1987 or whenever, when they were doing pre-production for this film, they needed to bring Michael back onto the big screen. Obviously they knew the story of how the Kirk came to be, or how the Michael Myers mask came to be. My belief is that they took a Kirk that existed still in the market, either filled it with something or just put it into a mold. But essentially they took a Kirk that existed, put it into a mold to make more of them. And when you recast, which is what that process is, when you recast, you lose detail automatically, because it's not coming from the original mold where, obviously the previous two are coming right from the Kirk mold. This is an all new mold. You know, it would either have to be an all new mold or, you know, just a really tough casting of that original mold. But my belief, based on just the way it looks and how some of the details have shifted, it looks like distorted in some areas, like the eyes, for example. That, you know, our right, the actual mask's left eye is very droopy down. Now, obviously, we're talking about the Kirk that had much smaller eye cuts that were eventually brought into bigger eye cuts. But essentially, this is a cousin of the Kirk. It still is that original mold. For me, it really shows in the nose area. But you can see how the eyebrows are a little stretched out. The mouth has lost kind of that upper lip detail. But the shape of it all, the chin is in the right place. The proportions are relatively the same. Now, George P. Wilbur played Michael Myers in that movie. He was showing a little bit too much neck, which we'll see in the next few movies, was then overcorrected to giving him like a big ass neck, like almost a collarbone in latex. This was our first hint at, you know, what would come. And you can see here, this area down here is an extension. I'm not sure if this is from like another cast and they just cut the bottom of it and stuck it on this, how they ended up doing that. But this is just another layer of latex that was added onto the mask, something we will see in the next film as well. Yeah, all that being said, cousin of the Kirk, as close as they probably could get it. You know, obviously they had a couple different masks for this film. Some of them, like the Fangoria cover mask, look a lot closer to the Kirk that we know. But that is, again, could be completely wrong, could be totally wrong, but that's always the story that I've kind of heard. You know, these stories are always getting updated and changed, so it's really hard to say, but based on what I know about how recast masks look, and if you don't know how a recast mask looks outside of this, go on Temu, go on Amazon and look up Michael Myers mask. You will see what some people have done to the Tots masks, and it's absolutely disgusting. You can see that at one point there was a good mask there, and somebody recasted it, and it looks like shit now. This happened in 1988 as well with the Halloween 4 mask. I'll just go right into where I think it should be. For me, it's tough putting it anywhere above like F or D. I really think, you know, as much as I love the movie, I think it's one of the best in the franchise. For me, like a D is where it belongs. But honestly, if we are looking at the full scope of things, there's really not a whole lot of masks that are worse than this thing. But I can think of one that I think we'll agree on is probably worse. So I would say this is, I'll put it in the D category, but it's a damn D minus. This ain't passing my class. It's coming back for summer school.
Love it. Well, thanks for the explanation, because I honestly never really understood how that was a Kirk. I mean, there are certain elements to it, obviously, like you talked about, that you can see are the same. The thing that I always am drawn to or notice is that, you know, on our right, or Michael's left, I guess it would be, or on the mask, like the sort of the mouth has an angle to it. It sort of droops down on one side. It is lower on one side. And that's where I see it. I see it in the chin. I see it in the mouth, see it in the nose. But, you know, the thing for me that was so prominent with that Kirk mask were the cheekbones. Like, if you look at it compared to that 78, like it's almost like the 1978 Kirk cheekbones are, it almost looks like scars in a way, like the way the cheek, even it would be on Michael's cheek. Like, just entertain me here for a second. Go up to the 78 and blow that one up just a little bit.
Gotcha.
And compare it, if you can, pull it down to next to the H4. Like that is like the Michael's right cheek. And I realize it's shading and shadowing and things like that, but Michael's cheekbone, which would have obviously been, I'm blanking on his name now. What the hell is the dude who they casted this off of?
Yeah.
I'm blanking on it. What?
Captain Kirk.
That guy.
William Shatner. William Shatner.
Jesus Christ. Thank you. William Shatner. William Shatner clearly has cheekbones, or had cheekbones that were pretty, prominent, I guess. But that's where, that mask, the H4 mask compared to the 78 looks so much different in my mind. Like even if the cheekbones, if you could, I would be really interested. This would be fun. And maybe you should do this. If you ever get time and you're just dicking around and have nothing better to do, give me cheekbones on the H4. Take Michael's cheekbones from 78, put those on the H4, leave the eyebrows, leave the sideburns, just give me those cheekbones. I would be very curious to know how that would change the mask.
Oh, I was trying to do something.
I see what you're trying to do. Yeah.
Either way,
just sometime, whatever. But here's what I'll say, and thank you for taking the 78 down. I will agree with your D because of one reason, and one reason only. The only reason this thing is not an F for me is because H4 is an awesome mother effing movie, right? And much like I have always said that H4 could be my favorite film if The Mask was better, The Mask would be worse if it wasn't for the movie of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So in a way, The Mask takes away from the film, but the film complements The Mask, if that makes sense. That's where I'm
totally at. And I think it's become iconic in its own right because of how good that movie is. I remember as a kid looking at like the box art for the films, which by the way, the box art for the Halloween 4 mask completely different than what you see in the film.
And isn't that technically that's the hero from H2? Wasn't that photo taken as like a promo shot kind of?
Yeah, I don't even know if it was supposed to be a promo shot. Maybe it was, but you can find the image that they used from H2, and then obviously kind of cleaned up for the cover of H4.
Right.
But I remember just like as a kid Googling Michael Myers, which is like something that we did all the time, is just Google images, Michael Myers, and we just look, and being like, God, I hate the way the H4 looks. But as I've grown up and I love that movie, my opinion of the H4 mask is probably better than it was at one point. But yeah, I think it still belongs there at the D. Now,
why do you, by the way, just real quick, why is the next mask, why do you have a Marilyn Manson mask on there?
Oh, see, Blaine, what they did was they shit on the idea of the Kirk, and they brought in
that's Michael Myers. I thought that was Marilyn Manson.
Right.
Okay.
No, this isn't the creepy kid in the back of the class with the slicked back hair, listens to a little bit too much metal music, scared. But got to be close to him just in case.
Bring the Snickers bar every day so he doesn't hurt you when he decides to snap.
Exactly. No, this is the Halloween 5 Revenge of Michael Myers mask. Now, I pulled up the Trick or Treat Studios one because this is another hard one to find. And I didn't want to strictly use only replica masks from other collectors and things like this.
Right. Well, it's hard to find. It's hard to find like just straight on photos of just the mask itself. Like there's photos of Don Shanks obviously wearing the mask, but yeah, it's hard to find a photo that's just like a clean, clear cut of the mask.
One thing to note about this mask is this was originally done by, I believe, K&B. Greg Nicotero is the artist who I believe is responsible for this mask. He's done things like The Walking Dead. He's a huge, absolutely incredible Tom Savini level makeup artist. But one thing that happened with this mask was originally the nose of this mask looked a little bit different. And it came to the attention of Blaine, who is the director of Halloween 5.
Oh, it's a French dude. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even tell you what his name is. I couldn't even pronounce it, to be honest with you. I can't say Dominic's name, man. I'm not gonna remember this dude's name. I don't know.
Either way, and you can kind of see it on the Trick or Treat Studios mask here, but the nose ended up being quote unquote too feminine for the mask. So you can kind of see kind of a roughly a triangle of added on latex onto this mask. It's pretty obvious in the movie if you're looking for it. If you're not, it doesn't really show up too bad. I never really noticed it as a kid watching it before I got super into the making of these masks. But, you know, clearly there were issues even in pre-production when it came to this mask. They wanted an angrier looking Michael Myers. They didn't want it to be, you know, your grandpa's Michael Myers. This was a meaner, tougher Michael Myers. And, you know, you see a lot of that and how he is in that film. Dude, this one just does not do it for me. You know, I'm all for new artists representation. Halloween 5 is obviously very different tonally than Halloween 4. They were trying to take it into a new direction, enter into kind of this Thorn. You know, Halloween 5 is kind of what brings this into a Thorn trilogy. But, you know, to me, if you're going to redesign, if you're going to mess with something, it better be better. And H5 is one of the biggest downgrades. And it's really hard. You know, I think people didn't like the way that the H4 mask looked. You know, even back in the day, I think it was like, what are we doing? This previous mask we finally got Michael back, but he looks like this. So they decided to, in my opinion, overcorrect to the Halloween 6 mask. Dude, for me, man, when I said that there's one that I think clearly belongs in that F category, this is the one for me. I really just think they butchered this. You know, we've made Nicolas Cage comments in the past. It really is just an ugly looking mask. I don't mind it a ton in the movie, but when you're comparing it to all of the other masks that Michael wears throughout these films, even Halloween 4, I have a tough time saying this is on par with the Halloween 4 mask. And I think it falls below. What about you?
Yes, I agree for the most part. You know, for me, I kind of just look at once again, and I think we've talked about this, maybe it was another mask. I don't remember, but when Greg Nicotero made this mask, and clearly, you know, Mustafa Akkad had to sign off on this thing, right? He was the one writing the checks for this damn movie. Like, the fact that they did this was just a giant question mark. Why? Who said this was a good idea, right? There's no way that they looked at this and went, well, that's Michael Myers, because the only thing that is similar about this mask is that it's white and has dark hair. Yep. Otherwise, you might as well have taken a mask of frickin' John Goodman, painted it white, and given it brown hair or dark hair, and you could have said, well, that's Michael Myers with a double chin. You know, I mean, that's what it is. But so my feeling is on it, I personally think it is probably H4 is a D. This to me would be a D-. I don't put it necessarily in the F category. I'm okay with it ending up there. I still think, in my opinion, there are worse masks that we got outside of just this one. It is a terrible mask. If they ever came back and said, hey, we're going to do another film, this would certainly be one of the bottom 2 masks or 3 masks that I would say, please, for the love of God, do not use this mask again. I'm okay with F. I would also be okay with like a D-. Definitely, you know, definitely below the H4, but maybe split the difference. Can we do that? Are we allowed to? Can we do that? Can we change this Venn diagram or whatever it's called?
This is our show.
This is Halloween Lives, mother effers. This is the podcast of Michael Myers. We can do whatever the hell we want with this thing. That thing's got a D-. That's what it's got.
I did take another look at what we still do have to talk about. And there is, I don't know why I said this is the one that's got to be an F, when very shortly we're going to be jumping into one that was just insanity.
Yes.
But let's take a breath of fresh air, Blaine. Let's talk about a mask that actually is a kick-ass new sculpt, and that is the Halloween 6 Curse of Michael Myers mask. Very hard to even find a replica of this mask that really captures the way it looks. I like the coloring on this replica because I do think it reflects a lot of what Halloween 6 is. Now, Halloween 6, again, after Halloween 5, changing the tone up. Halloween 6 also changes the tone up of these movies. This is the truest to the 1978 classic mask that we have that is not kind of a descendant of a Kirk or really trying to be a Kirk. I believe by this point, William Shatner's people had already contacted the good people over at the Halloween films, the Accods, and said, hey, yeah,
we got problems here. You want to use this, you pay me. And they probably said, nah, we're good.
Yeah, exactly. They said, we are a horror movie and we spend money on very little. And that is what ended up here. But thank God, because I do think this is one of the best that the franchise has to offer. I love what they did here. It's grungy, but it's not over the top. It's still that clean silhouette. My only gripe with this mask is the hair. He's kind of got like an Ellen DeGeneres thing going on. Looks like he stuck a fork in the outlet. Honestly, maybe not so much the Ellen DeGeneres, because we are going to see Ellen DeGeneres here in a couple films. But why, they thought Michael's hair needed to be reflective of the times is a little bit much for me. That would have been like giving the Rob Zombie mask like a Macklemore haircut, bald on the sides and long on the top. Like, we don't need, Michael Myers does not need to reflect the times that he doesn't
need to be stylish.
No, he wears coveralls, God damn it. And that's all we need. So yeah, that's my biggest problem is this is, and very much like the movie, very much like the movie itself, this is punk rock Mike Myers. And if that hair was, honestly, I think the Trick or Treat Studios mask that comes with kind of like just the classic Michael Myers hair, like the one you own, Blaine, dude, that looks 1,000 times better to me. And that's one of my favorite Michael Myers looks is that Trick or Treat Studios mask, the Halloween 6 with the long hair of like an H1. I think for me, this mask falls right in at about B. I could see it being an A. If you thought strongly that it was an A, I'm here with you, dude. But for me, it's like, dude, this is just solid. This is good ass work. You're not my favorite student. I'm going to give you a B. But see me after class. I'll give you a piece of candy or something. This is excellent work. Yep. And you're going to make your parents proud.
Don't be a teacher.
The youth of the world does not need that, but yeah, don't plan on it anytime.
So I totally agree. This is a great mask that I absolutely love. And like you said, this was the mask that they clearly said when they were making this thing, okay, guys, we have completely effed up on the last two masks. Let's go back and let's fix this thing, right? Let's make this better. We realize, we can't go to the Kirk, right? William Shatner, his people are not happy with us, but we can make it look similar yet different. And you can see it in the cheekbones. You can see it in the high, I think they call those like angel wing lips or something, where it's a real high peaked, pointed lips. The cheekbones, that just sort of the forehead almost has a little bit of a V shape to it in a way. Like there's this weird V cut into it. I love this mask. It is, in my mind, a solid B+, if not A- mask. Definitely, it is not the Kirk, but if they were to make a new Halloween film tomorrow and they said, hey, we're going back to this mask, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah. Let's get it. Let's do this, right? They're not going to. But I love that they tried to go back to this mask or back to the original look. And here's the thing that, I'm not going to do the math on it because I can't do math. But let's just say this film was made in 1995. Michael Myers would have been, I think, if my math is right, almost 40 years old or coming up on a 40, right? He would have been like 36, 37 years old, whatever. Sure. Like when I see that mask and I see Michael in that film, I go, this is a more aged Michael Myers. This is an older version of Michael Myers. He's George P. Wilbur or whoever it was that was playing him in whatever scene is bigger. He's more aggressive. And I feel like the mask in H6 reflects the version of Michael Myers that we got on the screen, that they complement each other so well. Very aggressive, very just a brutal Michael Myers. I mean, truly, like there's a lot of like brutal, like there's some brutality in that movie. And I feel like the mask just reflects that. So let's rock it. Very, very well done mask. Would love to see them do it again.
Completely agree, man. This is some of the best of what the Halloween series has to offer. Now let's talk about.
Do we need to talk about this one? I mean, do we even need to? We know where this one's going to end up, do we not?
This, for the people at home that might not know, this is the Halloween H2O CGI mask. Now there were 3 masks in Halloween H2O because the people couldn't get their shit together. 4.
Yeah, because they technically have H6 in the beginning.
So true. And we know where the H6 lands. Yeah. They should have just probably stuck with that one through H2O.
Yes.
But they're on a new timeline, so they got to make it make sense. And what makes sense better than, 1998, 1999 graphics? This is the peak of computer technology. What's crazy is I could make a AI Michael Myers right now in Photoshop that probably looks, way better than this. This is going right to the bottom. We know where this lands. This belongs right here. Such a weird thing that they did to try to make continuity within this film because of what we're about to talk about here, which K&B, goddamn, man, they are really just getting the short end of the stick when working on these films. This is the K&B mask.
KGB.
The KGB open up, Red Army mask. This is the K&B mask. Personally, now a lot of people love this mask. I don't understand it at all. I think this is the worst Michael Myers mask ever. Like, I'd almost rather see a full movie of CGI Michael Myers and give me 6 sequels with the Halloween 5 mask before this. This is the least threatening Michael Myers. Look at alien ass Michael Myers. I think some people like it because it kind of resembles, like, if you took away these gigantic traps, right? Like if you took away his massive neck thing going on right here. Why can I not delete this? Oh, because if you took that away, right, it looks like The Mask that Don Post put out, roughly. But I think
it looks like the 6th member of the Jackson 5.
Completely agree. It
like
is. What? It's just tough, dude. What about this is threatening? For me, this goes right down here with F. If it took 2 masks to get to the H2O mask that we ultimately know is like the mask in that film, worth it, dude. Even though they should have just stuck with the H6 mask. Do you disagree?
No, I 1,000% agree with where you're at. We don't even need to talk about it because it's terrible. Thank God we only got it really in that one scene or 2 scenes, whatever it was. Like, thank God.
It really is just so bad. But this is what we ended up with. Now, this image is kind of weird because this is the screen use mask, and I think it's after some time, but it still generally captures, like, it's a little stretched out from the angle of the lens, but something like
John Cena.
A little bit like John Cena. But this is, in my opinion, for a new sculpt. Now there is an issue, and it's the eyes. I think you can't deny that these are some big ass eyes on this mask. This is probably due to that final scene, so we could have some emotion there. The 2 biggest problems for me are the eyes and the hair. This is the Ellen DeGeneres hair that I was referring to earlier. I don't know what the hell is going on. The hairline is a perfect circle. It's kind of tucked back. But please allow me to enjoy. Whoop, what did I just do? The bottom half of this mask. I mean, if we just go like this, the bottom half of this mask is very Kirk. You know, you've got those cheekbones that you talked about. The nose is almost spot on to Kirk. The mouth is almost spot on to Kirk. For a long time, this was outside of the original, my favorite look of Michael Myers. I think as time has gone on, and especially as some of the newer sequels have come out, you know, this is easily beaten out for me. But I do love this mask. Maybe if the eyes were smaller, it would be a little bit higher. I think for what a Michael Myers mask should be, it falls right at C for me. It's an average, run-of-the-mill. You know, I don't hate it. I don't necessarily love it. It's just a solid mask. You know, you're getting a 70%. You did the work. You might need to, you know, spend a little time studying though next time.
Right, exactly. Like this is, we got the full the full book report, but like your grammar sucks. Like that's what it is. It's like really good story, but dude, you gotta like dial in the grammar a little bit, the spelling. Otherwise, you can be a good writer. Are we brothers? I think we're brothers because I agree once again with where you landed with this thing. I call these two masks, meaning H2O and Halloween Resurrection, they're like the Backstreet Boys Halloween masks. The Backstreet Boys Michael Myers mask, because in H2O, he's got this weird sort of spiky thing going on.
Clay Aiken.
Yeah, looks like he was riding a motorcycle without a helmet on for a while. And you're like, bro, what's going on? And then obviously you go to, you know, the H8 mask, Halloween Resurrection mask, and you got more of the same. One thing that I thought was really interesting is when you had that mask blown up is the lips on the H2O mask, comparing it to like put that mask next to H8 for a second and zoom in on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then look at the lips on the two. It's actually pretty interesting how the lips are very, very similar.
Well, I think what they were trying to do with both of these is capture that Kirk look without really being the Kirk. And yeah, you're totally right. Like you can see on on this area or on this part of, whatever you want to call it, the angel wing, it's higher than this one.
Right.
And you've kind of got that slope like that, I would say. Very interesting. I never thought about that before.
H2O, throw it at C. I'm all about it. Yeah, all about it.
All right. And we'll just leave the H8 blown up because that's what we're talking about with the most glamorous Michael Myers of this series. This
mask makes me want to wax my chest hairs.
That's going in the quotes of all time Halloween lives. Yeah, no, dude, it's just like, it's a little too pristine. My biggest problem has always been in this upper lip region. It bugs the hell out of me. The hair is all right. We're still like, it's the stick straight hair. The color is a little bit off for me. They went with like, instead of like a tan, like they had kind of run with for the last few movies, like an off-white leaning tan. This is off-white leaning almost silver. Like I struggle to say gray. And like, we obviously had the Cinema Secrets mask growing up that was just pure gray silver. Yeah, I don't know. This mask for me is definitely in the lower half of the pack. It's got a lot of things right. Like if somebody rehauled this to look like a Halloween 1978, I think you've got yourself a solid mask. The sculpt is not that bad. The mouth being 9 miles away from the nose is a problem that can't be fixed with paint. But it's not terrible. It's nowhere near like the K&B mask from Halloween H2O.
Dude, you were the one who pointed it out to me that the mask, the upper lip is like, there's a huge, like Michael Myers needs a mustache in this movie. He needs a mustache in this movie, and he needs to cover that shit up a little bit because he's one of those guys who just, when he shaves, you realize that he's just got a really big upper lip. And there's nothing wrong with that for you guys out there who have big upper lips and you cover it up with a mustache. I understand. But he needs a mustache here, huge upper lip. And overall, like I remember this is the first Michael Myers mask that I ever owned. It was a Cinema Secrets Michael Myers mask. And to your point, it did have almost like a silver hue to it. Like it was definitely not white. It was not a white mask. Like it was great. Like it was almost like gray alien, like a gray alien with the big eyes. It was like that look to it. Like it was like kind of like weird gray, silver, whitish. Like it was bizarre. My mask that I own, my Cinema Secrets mask, was much darker. The coloring was much darker than this mask here. And I don't know, is this a screen use mask that we have here?
You know what's wild is I believe this is a Cinema Secrets mask. There were kind of two tiers of that mask. There was kind of the one that they released to the public, and then there was a very limited run that had a like a more professional paint job. I believe this is that.
Okay. Because I was going to say this one is definitely much nicer than the one that I had. But for me, man, this mask is did you say where it was landing for you?
So I'm struggling because I don't think it's as good enough to be a C. But maybe like a D plus C minus. Like I would maybe put it like right there.
We're frickin' brothers.
Let's do this.
We're frickin' brothers.
Frickin' brothers.
We've either talked about this shit so much that we've just convinced each other of the other person's opinion that we're just like, yeah. But I agree once again.
Well, let's because H8 did such a bang up job with the franchise, we had to reboot. And you know what? I actually forgot one. Boom. No, I didn't. Hold on, let me just make it pretty. Oh wow, it's really not going to work with me. Oh shit. All right, this is how the making of Halloween Lives goes. Anyways, I forgot to bring in this one. This is the 92 murder mask. We can go. This is where we might.
This is where we might have some differences, though. I'm not going to lie, because I think you're higher on this mask than I am.
The 92 murder mask. For me, man, I freaking love this mask. I think the sculpt job for these three masks in general is phenomenal in the way that, a lot of people think that they had different masks to bring out, the anger in these films, but it's all just one beautiful sculpt. I'll be realistic with you, and I think I'll make a sales pitch you can agree with.
Okay, let's hear it.
For me, this goes at B. I could, a fella like me could put it at A very easily. This is a B plus work, but I won't forget. Maybe it's A plus work, but I won't forget when you skipped my class a couple times this year. And, we just can't let that shit slide. So I'm dropping you down to a B. But honestly, for a brand new sculpt, maybe the best one in the series. My opinion. Now we'll talk about it. I think this knocks even certain other clean Michael we're yet to talk about out of the water. It's not trying to look like a Kirk, but it's got everything you need from a Kirk. Maybe a little bit angrier than I'd like it to be. I love my Michael Myers emotionless. But I love this mask. Where do you put the murder mask? The 92 murder mask.
Here's what I'll say about this mask is this. What I have to remind myself of is that this mask was created for a remake, that Rob Zombie knew that he, or the sculptor in this case, had some abilities to create something that was different but the same, right? Like if we would have gotten the H5 mask in Rob Zombie's remake, people would have rioted, right? They would have been like, this is not Michael Myers. Why would you do this to the remake? There are enough characteristics of this mask and similarities in this mask to the original Kirk that people were like, oh, cool. I see what you did there. You took this mask and then you just sort of made it your own. So from that perspective, I do respect this mask and the sculpt that we get because there are those similarities. To your point, there's some kind of angry eyebrows. He's got an angry forehead going on. Much sort of like Halloween Resurrection. Like that's where the anger is focused. It's coming out of his forehead and his eyebrows. For me, this is one of those deals where the student is coming up to me after class and he's going, Professor Duncan, look, dude, I know I skipped your class a few times. I know I was late on a couple of those assignments, but man, my parents are going to kick my ass. If I don't pass this class, my parents are going to kick my ass. And I'm going, well, you know what? Maybe if you would have shown up for class, maybe if you would have paid a little bit more of attention, maybe if you would have put your phone down a few times and paid attention to what I was saying, you wouldn't find yourself in this position. But I'm an empathetic person. I understand life happens. I understand that people are busy. I understand that as a college kid, you might just feel like sleeping in someday and you're going to skip my class. I will also tell you that your final project, the final assignment that you gave me, overall, I was happy with it. Needed some work, but overall, I was happy with it. I was going to give you a C+. Okay, I was going to give you a C+, but I appreciate the fact that you cared enough about your grade that you came to me. I'm going to bump you up to a B-. And that's where I land with that mask. Is you are on a razor thin wire, razor thin edge here. That was almost a C+. But because you took the time to come and talk to me about it and you gave me a good sales pitch and I'm an empathetic person, I am going to give you a B-. Tell your parents not to kick your ass.
I love it. I think that's a fair assessment. We both kind of came to an agreement there. I think we might have been more A leaning on my side, more C leaning on yours. Mm-hmm. And overall, I think it does belong right there with the Halloween 6 mask. Now, let's take it and let's Rob Zombify it.
Mm-hmm.
How I feel about this mask has changed a lot over the years. I think this used to be like top tier of like, oh, the Halloween 1978 mask isn't scary. It doesn't even have a lightning bolt rip on the forehead. And, as I've gotten older, I do appreciate, man. I just give me a blank Michael Myers, man. Just give me a plain white Halloween mask that's kind of cheap looking. This thing, this was our first attempt at like a natural rot mask. I think it was done better in some of the movies that we're going to be talking about shortly. But this is a stylized take. This is, maybe not the epitome of Rob Zombie. I think we'll probably get that with the next one. But this is Halloween for a new audience. And this was just a product of the times. All these remakes that came out were a much grungier. I mean, even the Friday the 13th, his clean mask looks like it's been through a war in hell. And that's just how these movies were. I'm glad we got the clean version. For me, as much as it pains me to say it, I think this mask, I think it's just average. I think it's just all right. And if you love this mask, I completely understand. I think it's one of like the coolest looking masks. Like it's definitely got a style that's undeniable. But when it comes to ranking all these masks, man, it doesn't hit the same as it did for me in like 2008. And maybe that's just me changing too. But there was a time I would have put this up there with the 1981 Halloween 2 mask. And I
know that. I know you have always been much bigger on the Rob Zombie masks than I have been. Here's what I'll say. Here's why this mask is on par with the Resurrection mask, or at the same tier as the Resurrection mask. It is basically the same mask as what we got with, we graded our we agreed on this B- for the kind of hero, I guess, mask, if you will, the original version of Rob Zombie. The The reason why this mask really loses me is the cracks. They are so fake and unnatural looking, and never in a million years have I seen a mask rot the way that this mask is supposed to look. And I get it. They are putting an exclamation mark on this. They are trying to really hit home that, man, this thing sat under the floorboards or whatever the hell it was in the Myers house, and it just sat there and it got shit on by mice and rotted for years, right? But I hate the lightning bolt look. No mask has the Trick or Treat Studios masks, I think, look terrible because of that. And I realize that they're all probably from the original sculpt. But just, it looks terrible. They had like a weird, like yellow and green hue to them. Like if you look at it real closely, just really ugly. And that's why, to me, this mask is on par with Resurrection. It's a D+, maybe a C- if you put me in a good mood and I'm feeling happy. But otherwise, this thing that's where I land with it. So I don't know how you feel about it. But I just think, in my mind, the cracks, the artist, and I forget his name. I think it was Wayne Toth or Toth was his name, actually.
Yeah.
Toth, I think. He should have known better. Like, no mask. Like Christopher Nelson, we're going to talk about Christopher Nelson's mask here in a second, but Christopher Nelson studied masks that looked shitty, that had rotted, that had been laying around for years. He got those little teeny tiny details and cracks so intimately right. This mask misses the mark there, and that's why for me it's a D+. That's where I land with it.
I'm hesitant to put it there, but I understand why you're going to put it there. I think for what these masks are, I think Halloween 2 does it better.
Absolutely. 1,000%.
I think Halloween 2, and I grabbed the hospital scene. If you want to say that we should have also done like the end with the flap, whatever. This is, when I think of Halloween 2, this is the mask I think of. Even though it's not, it's in a dream. This feels more like the continuation from the first one. I think what I like about this is it takes what we, you might not like some of that stylized stuff in Rob Zombie H1, but I like that this one is just itself. And that's something you could say about Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie in general, is it's like, it is what it is. Like, you either love it or you hate it, but they went balls to the wall on everything in that film to make it exactly the vision that they want. Now, I know that the vision and what we ended up seeing on screen had a lot of things going on in between, but this is, to me, like, this is Rob Zombie to a T.
Right.
And I could put myself either a C, but I could convince myself of a B. I could easily convince myself of a B for what it is. It's just the gnarliest thing, dude. It's a very scary, I think it's a perfect mask for the Tyler Mane Michael Myers that we got in this film. Probably the most brutal Michael Myers that we've seen on screen is in Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie. And this is a brutal ass mask to go along with it. Dude, where do you put this mask?
So this specific mask, meaning the dream sequence flash or the dream sequence mask, for me is a C. If we had the tearaway mask that we see in the majority of the film, that to me is a B. I love that mask.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah. I love we've talked about it before, like the hobo Michael Myers. I love that look. I think it's a cool look. And I also look at, like, if this mask was truly deteriorating when he gets attacked and, she rips it away, I think that's at the strip club is when she does it. The stripper does it. Like that would happen. Like the mask was so fragile at that point that it got torn away. This version of the mask. Yes. So I think the dream sequence mask for me is a C. I can maybe give it a C+. That mask right there in my mind, because I think it's just a cool look, for me is a solid B. I would 100% give it a B.
I'm gonna level with you here, because for me, I'm flip-flopped on those two masks.
Okay.
I think this could easily be a B. what if, because again, this is our freaking show. What if we grabbed these two bad boys and we said, hey, oh shit. What if we said, oh shit. Hold on.
Oh, what if we said?
What if we said? How about right there?
Yeah.
Somewhere.
They're twins. They're twins that are showing up. They're showing up the same day. They're turning the same goddamn assignments. We know you're cheating off each other. You sit next to each other every class. I know what you're doing. I'm not stupid. I wasn't born yesterday. You guys are getting the same damn grade.
But who am I to break up the family?
Yeah, exactly. Brothers.
No, I think that's right where they land. And I do still feel bad putting Rob Zombie H1 kind of at that C- level. But dude, the Rob Zombie H2 masks are just.
We've got Rob Zombie. We've got him in. We don't have him a C-. We got him in a B.
Not this version. You got this guy at C-.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. You're talking the deteriorated. Okay, I was looking at the original.
Right.
Yeah.
The kind of the main Rob Zombie. This feels low, but I understand, especially when you compare it to these two, which I think just blow it out of the water and really probably do more of what Rob Zombie really wanted to do anyways.
I feel like, to be honest with you, now take away the missing pieces of the mask, but the dream sequence mask is, or I should say the C version that we have. If you compare, what am I trying to call it? So you've got the dream sequence mask, and what's the one below it? The one next to the H8. What would you call that? Just the H1 deteriorated mask.
Yeah, just
to me,
dirty.
Like the dirty version is the Temu version of that mask. That's how I look at that. I just think it's like, even the hair color. Why is it freaking gray?
And for a lot of the movie, it does look gray.
Yeah, I don't dig that. So yeah, that's kind of where I land with it. So I knew the Rob Zombie films, we were going to disagree on that a little bit, but I am satisfied, I guess, with the ranking, and I'm willing to go up. I'm willing to go up to a B on the clean Rob Zombie if you're willing to drop down to that C- level on the dirty version of that H1.
Totally. And here's what I'll also say is I wasn't completely taking this mask into consideration with the hood and the whole getup of the Hobo Myers. With that Hobo Myers, I would probably put the whole thing up just because it is such a great look for the character. But we are talking masks. Speaking of masks, now this is kind of a shitty picture. I'm just realizing.
It's like,
hey, it's me and Michael Myers.
Let me see if I can find a better one. But this is the Halloween 2018 mask.
Looks like he's laying on a medical examiner's table.
His lips look big.
Yeah, it looks like he's shitting out his mouth.
So I was trying to find like a screen used copy to talk about here, and this is what I'm about to drop in there is much better. This is the Halloween 2018 mask. After years of waiting for Michael's return, obviously we got the news Jamie Lee Curtis was coming back, and we knew that this whole franchise was going to be a labor of love. We ended up with this mask, and this is, it showed up in the poster for the mask, and immediately you and I were like, oh, this is what they were going for with Rob Zombie H1.
Right.
It's a much more realistic, even though latex masks that are rotting don't necessarily have all these tiny crinkles. One thing that we talked about before this mask came out, the images of the original mask that was used in 1978 and 1981 came out, and it's got like a droopy mouth. You can tell it's deformed a little bit, and it does have some layer lines in it like this. You and I were both like, God, I hope that they use that as inspiration for the Halloween 2018 sequel. But they ended up going with this, which I understand why they didn't end up going with the version that you and I had talked about. But goddamn, dude, this is, it's very clearly inspired by the Kirk. This is supposed to be a continuation from Halloween 1978. I think they knocked it out of the park. The mask is kind of its own character in this film, with the podcasters holding it, with, questions of does the mask affect the supernatural ability of Michael Myers?
Right.
It really does get the love, probably more than any other film, to the mask, and we really see a lot of it. To me, brother, this is going right up here. And if you wanted to tell me, if somebody wanted to tell me that it belongs up here, I could see why you would think that. Wow. I could understand, and I could level with you, because I think it is, one thing that is very common in these films is a distressed Michael Myers. I don't think there's a single film that does it better than Halloween 2018. Where does this mask land for you, dude?
What I would say, this mask for me is I would agree with you. This mask lands in the A category. This is a student who has done their homework. They've shown up. They've paid attention. They've answered the questions when they've been asked. Nothing in my mind will ever touch the original, the superior, but this mask is fantastic. We've mentioned it. You kind of touched on it a little bit. I wish I would have almost rather, if they really wanted to go for that true rotting look, I wish they would have just made it look like the real hero mask today. Because there's something super creepy about that mask. Like how almost like the mouth or the jaw area is like falling off. Like that's freaking scary. It's like a zombie version of the Michael Myers mask, not Rob Zombie, but like a zombified version of that mask. I really like this mask. There are times in this film, and we need to talk to Christopher Nelson about it, because we know that this was the same sculpt. There are times when this mask seems more filled up and changes. It has a different look, but overall, like that picture itself, when you compare it, if you put that up right next to the 78 and zoomed in on it, like that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good, but it's still, nothing in my mind will touch the 78. And yeah, I don't think you couldn't have asked for, I think Christopher Nelson did a fantastic job. I couldn't have asked for more. And that is, in my opinion, that's where it needs to land. It goes in that A category.
Totally agree with you. It is one of the best, that we have seen, in all the films. And I'm lucky that I think that was the first Halloween movie I ever saw in theaters.
Right.
Now this mask, when I tell you a mask that has grown on me, is the Halloween Kills hero mask. The more I look at this thing, and I was all right with it in the at the beginning. I was kind of like, okay, we're going to do the half burned thing, a little two-facey. It makes sense for the first film, and we kind of had an idea that this is probably what it would end up looking like based on the ending of the first film. But I do, as time goes on, I really have a deep appreciation for this mask, and maybe it's just in the Shape of Winter, talking about his beautiful s'more mask. This really is. This is if the Halloween 2 face ripped off, or the hospital mask is the embodiment of Rob Zombie's 2 films, this to me is the embodiment of the David Gordon Green trilogy. I really, for as much as I dislike that movie, and maybe not dislike, but I have big issues with that movie, the way Michael looks is really fantastic. And it's hard to say that it tops 1970 or the 2018 film, because it is automatically kind of a version of it. But I think it's up there. I probably would put this mask right here at B, but it's a B plus. And if somebody said, I'd give this kid an A-, I'd be there.
When you said B, I was like, I'd bump it up to a B plus, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think that a B plus it's just a minor step down from the 2018 mask. That's where I'm at. I agree. It has grown on me a little bit. The one thing that I will say I do not like about this mask is I don't like the gunshot wound on the face. I've never, ever liked that for multiple reasons, because number one, realistically, Michael's head would have been blown the F off, most likely, if he had taken a round to the cheek. Like, it would have killed him. If he truly was human, that probably would have killed him. But number two, it doesn't really show up like that in the movie. Like, it's never like I have the Tots mask up here, and it's so like it's super bloody, and it's like it never really looked like that. I would have rather clearly one side of the mask be pretty clear as far as the overall look and how it looks 40 years later, and then one side be that two-faced burned. I would have rather have had that than this gunshot wound to the face. And that's why in my mind it's a step down.
I'm with you. There's just too much going on. When you have the bloody spot, I mean, it's a lot. And I think that's something that Friday the 13th might have done better. They had the axe cut and the cheek cut on the same side of the mask, I believe. Yeah. And yeah, I agree. If this was removed, it might bump it all the way up to that B category for me. But it is just a beautiful mask. I love the way that they colored this thing. I love how realistic those burns are. Freaking fantastic. Now, Halloween Kills also gave us the first genuine try of coming back to the first film that we've ever had. And that is the flashback mask. Dude, it's like, I asked so nicely for a green shirt. I asked for a green shirt all year long for Christmas. And I wanted a green shirt with long sleeves and a nice collar. And you got me a shirt with long sleeves and a nice collar, but it's turquoise. It's off. And for me, a lot of that goes right into the eyes and the coloring on this mask, mainly the eyes. I don't know how else to say it. They're kind of butthole-ish. And they're a little bit buggy. I think this, similar to like the H2O, if you go like this, yeah, that looks pretty quirky to me. But if you go like this, it's like, what the hell happened?
Right.
I heard so much about how they studied the hell out of this movie because they knew the fans would get upset if it wasn't perfect at Halloween 78. Go to NAG Masks and buy one, for God's sake. It's like it came right off the film roll. Why we had to do this, I'm not sure. This mask, a lot of people love it, and I get it. Like I would definitely own one of these masks. It's cool in its own regard, but to me, it belongs right here in the old C category. It's pretty run of the mill. Don't hate it. Certainly don't love it.
Could not have said it better myself.
Cool.
C. Rock that thing in a C. I appreciate the effort that was put into it. I appreciate the fact that the flashback scene is incredible. But it was just a little bit different. And, your analogy of asking for the green shirt all year long, you made it very clear. This is what you wanted. Yep. This is what I'm expecting. And then it was just like, why is it turquoise? I didn't ask for a turquoise shirt. Thanks for the present.
It's right. Yeah, nice no, it's great. It's still a good shirt.
It's not exactly what I wanted. So let's talk about this freaking ends mask.
Holy God, dude. When it first came out, I remember you and I were disappointed. I remember seeing I think the Tots version actually kind of like leaked before we really saw a good picture of it in the film. I know that like in the trailer we're like, oh, it looks like it might have some like mold, but for the most part, it's just the Kills mask. And I remember you and I even being like, I'm not even going to buy this mask. It looks exactly like the Kills. You blow it up here, and this isn't a great image of it. It's pretty blown out, but it's so different from Kills. And I think it's a good kind of mix of Kills in 2018 as far as it looks. This is the broken, old, frail Michael Myers, and we've gotten the mask in its most disgusting state yet. The hair is kind of in one clump that's been molded together. It's half covered in this white fuzzy mold. props to the, like Christopher Nelson for making this a reality, because it is such a cool idea for mask. We've seen, like Rob Zombie, you talked about how it's kind of a yellowish color in the cracks. We flirted with the idea of mold. We've got the cave dweller, moldy ass, gross Michael Myers here. And, I'm a big fan of the way he looks in this film. Obviously, I love the film in general. I think this is probably like a C+, B- for me. Maybe it could go here, but I do like the Halloween Kills probably more. But it is just a really, really freaking cool mask. I think altogether with the ensemble, kind of like the Hobo Myers, it probably beats out the Halloween Kills look for me. But as a mask itself, it is, because of how much detail has been lost in the molding process, it's not quite as striking to me as the Halloween Kills. Where do you put this thing, man?
Well, you touched on it. We saw Halloween Ends in the theater, and we went to Spirit Halloween shortly after that, and they had it there, and we were just like, stupid. I went home. I didn't buy that mask that day. I went home and I started thinking about it more, and I was like, actually, it's okay. I guess I can live with it. Then the next day I woke up after that and I was like, no, it's a cool mask. The next day after that, I was driving my ass to Spirit Halloween buying this mask. I love this mask. I love this look. I think it's super cool. For me personally, I do like it better than Kills. I like it better. Yeah, I really do. For me, this is a B+ mask all day long. If it's a C+ mask or B- mask for you, I think we know where this thing belongs. It's then right on par essentially with the Kills mask. But for me personally, if we were doing our own tier list, this one would be a B+, maybe an A-, because I love the look of this mask. I think it's so unique. I think it's so cool. And I think the mask is a great representation of what they were trying to show with Michael himself, and that the mask essentially told the story of Michael Myers just by looking at it. Fantastic. Loved it. For sure a B all day long for me, but I would go higher than that if this was my own tier that I was doing.
Yeah, I see where you're at. I think B is right where it belongs. It probably is right on par with Halloween Kills. And with that, we have officially finished our mask tier list. This is where we land.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Where do you disagree with us? Where did we get it wrong? Where did we get it right? Are there any that you would put up in that superior category, or any that you would go, this thing is an F all day long? We would love to hear from you guys, because obviously Austin and I are very closely matched up with where, if we had two different tier lists, they would look very, very similar to each other. But we want to know where you guys at, and feel free, if you guys have done this yourself, reach out, send us to it, or send this to us on Instagram. Send us your tier list that you've done, because we'd love to see it and compare notes, and we love talking masks, especially Austin. Austin is the mask guy. But yeah, dude, that's awesome. I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we re-ranked the mask. It'll be interesting to go back and do it again another year from now. Especially now that Halloween is just a few months behind us. The masks are fresh in our minds, much like the movies were when we re-ranked those. But it was a lot of fun, as always. And that's going to wrap up episode number 57. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did that. It was Austin's idea to go through and do this list. So good job on that. It was a lot of fun. This is episode number 57. My name is Blaine Duncan. That is my brother, Austin. And you've watched another episode of Halloween Lives, a podcast of Michael Myers. We'll see you back here next week for episode 58. Take care.